Good evening. It is 5 p.m. That's better. I'm Rob Watt and Chair of Public Safety Committee, and this is the Public Safety Committee and Committee of the Whole on October 6, 2025. And the meeting is being recorded and available for your enjoyment on YouTube afterwards. With that, let's get started. We are going to call roll, and we have council members Kara Christensen and Dr. Kat Cotton present, as well as Dina Dean. Did I just do that wrong? No. Okay, you just got this clerk, Mayor Catherine Ross, Mike Chambliss, City Administrator, and we have Robert. Good evening. With that, call for the approval of the agenda. I have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Right. Anything to change in the agenda tonight? Hearing none, we will accept the agenda as presented. Next, we move on to public comment, and I do not see anyone unless one of the staff has something to speak up about. You have to come in person. If you're not here in person, we still welcome your comments, and we'll take those into serious consideration. Send those over to City Clerk Dean or myself, and we'll make sure that those get addressed. So with that, I close public comment. We'll move on to the minutes. The approval of minutes dated September 2nd, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Cotton, seconded by Councilmember Christensen. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will accept the minutes as presented. Now we get to move on to the heart of the matter tonight. Presentation, school zone street signs. Dylan Gamble, come on up. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, Public Safety Committee. I almost said Public Works Committee. I'm so used to it. I have sent a request to share screen. I'm going to give you a quick presentation on some changes we're making to the school zone safety signs. So the kind of neon greenish colored signs that you see for school zones. I believe I'll be there in a second. Okay. So as I mentioned, that's the topic of this presentation. What we did is we identified a couple locations where we were lackluster in our school zone signage. This is a requirement for these. It's a specialty type of sign. It's a certain color, a certain shape, a certain size, and they have to be associated with intersections at school zones in all cities. So what we identified is a couple of situations where it was either slightly inaccurate to full out inaccurate, and we did a review of the signs and did a full inventory of the city and identified an area right around the high school and the elementary school where the signs were inadequate or inappropriate or wrong. So what we did is we identified those, got a collection of all the things we needed to do to make sure we were going to be up to standards, tracked it with the MUTCD, which is the kind of national, it's the design standard. So I'll click this next one here, maybe that'll make more sense. But essentially we were updating all of our signs to make sure we're in compliance. We installed several new signs and several different types. There's a bunch of different, depending on what's going on with the intersection requirements there. So we had a few intersections around the high school, especially where there was crossings, but no crosswalk here identifiers. And so you'll see essentially two signs. One says there's crosswalks coming up. You've just now entered a school zone that has new speeds, and there is a crosswalk right here. And that's kind of where, where we were seeing the shortcomings, and that's what we identified and corrected. You kind of see it before and after. So on the left is what we had before. On the right is what we added. A main focus point, if you wanted to go see them for yourself, If you go to Park and Schussman and look kind of up the road both directions, that's where you see a bulk of the signage changes. However, there is corrections to older inadequate signs, the ones that use the wrong colors, for example. Not sure exactly when those were added, but they're now been corrected. We've actually added a few more just for clarity. So anytime there was a moment where we could go above and beyond to make it more clear or move a sign because either trees got in the way, we chose to move the sign to make it easier to see. And so those are all the options we considered. We're not 100% complete. We're still kind of adding more and kind of fiddling with signs. We also identified some posts that were on their last leg, so to speak. And so we're now swapping them out for steel posts, which is a very common post sign that we have. No longer using the wood, pressure treated wood. So beyond that, we're also doing a couple other activities that are near and dear to this topic, but also kind of are identified for us when we think about public safety. One is a speed study that we're working with the police department on. And so if you want more details about that, we can get into it. But essentially it's a speed study in 2 locations along the parkway and near the high school. And so we're going to look at the speed. How fast are people going? How fast ought they be going? And essentially create a recommendation for us to then change our existing system as the speed study kind of identifies. So that's what we're looking at. That'll be going on over the next few months. The other thing is that we are adding new rapid flashing beacons. So what we have downtown here, and we're added a few years ago, the rapid flashing beacons, when you click the button, they go off on one side of the street and they light up both directions. So we're going to be adding 2 test locations for this. They are solar powered. So we're a little antsy about solar power in terms of like having enough battery life and some other things. So we're testing them in 2 locations. The locations are on Park Avenue and Mountain Home, I think. Mountain View. Okay, thank you. Yeah, there, and the other locations on Meadowbrook, where the tennis courts, where high schoolers walk from their main building to the tennis courts across the street. So we've selected those 2 locations to be our test grounds for this rapid flashing beacon options. We have them physically in. We're going to be installing them here soon. And then the last thing is that we will make changes based on the speed study. Almost certainly, I doubt that the speed study says everything's perfect and we've done everything right. We will be modifying things to try to make it better and more appropriate. And hopefully, if these rapid flashing beacons are successful, we'll seek to implement them strategically. We don't want to overuse them. There's a sense that if you overuse certain types of traffic calming or signaling or signage, that people just start to not see a sign at all. And so what we're trying to do is make sure we meet the standards, but don't over energize the visual space. I'm not exactly sure. I can go back and pull up my standards, but that's what we're also trying to avoid, overwhelming the visual cues for people. And so just using them selectively is going to be a goal for us. That's all I have for this presentation, but I'm happy to take questions.
Councilmember Christensen.
Sorry, it sounded like you said that the city looked at all of the school zones to
Yeah.
make sure that we were in compliance across the board.
Yeah, so it seems like the Ridge was developed later. It inherited less changes over the course of years of updates to the MUTCD standards. So we think that's probably what caused it. The other part is there's a major construction effort at the high school, and I think a lot of signs came down during the construction. They were never replaced. We didn't see any major changes to other schools. We will be probably choosing to selectively nudge some around to fit the kind of goals that we're looking at. But we targeted these ones first because they were not in compliance. And so targeting non-compliance, and then we will kind of trickle through the best case nudges to make them a little slightly better. But more or less, we saw pretty good signage on the Ridge.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cotton, any questions, comments?
Great.
Thank you very much. I want to also thank the residents down on Park Street because they came here and
Mhm.
the city has taken action based on some input from the community. So it's much appreciated, and the city's great at listening. So and then implementing. So thank you very much, Dylan.
Absolutely.
This is exciting. Okay.
Yeah, that was fast turnaround.
Yeah. My gosh. Yeah. Good government at work. All right. Now we're up to the brush truck with Chief Bailey. What you got for us?
Give me a second here. I'll share the screen. There we go. Evening. So I just wanted to give you an update on where we were with this, with the brush truck or wildfire protection in the city. As you know, this is a topic that is something we've been looking into, both the council as well as myself at the departments, due to the increased wildfire risk in Western Washington, as well as some of the recommendations that came out of our accreditation, which was to begin to study and develop a wildland program. With that in mind, I was able to get $100,000 in the current budget, just in case, as a placeholder, in case something did come up and there was the right situation came along. So speaking of that, Eastside Fire and Rescue was surplusing a brush rig recently, which is actually Duval's old brush rig. Eastside is surplusing it because they now hold the contract with Duval, but it was Duval's old brush rig. And honestly, this was a possibility I knew that was going to come up in the next couple of years, and this was really something I kind of had in mind when I had that money put aside. So with a thank you to Mayor Ross and City Administrator Chambliss and our finance team, I was given the go-ahead to pursue this vehicle and to look into it. So that being said, I'd like to introduce you to the new Snoqualmie Brush 155. So here's a couple pictures of the brush truck that I'll be picking up on Wednesday. And we'll get more into that here in a minute. So there's a picture of the side. There's another one of the back. You can see it's just a pickup bed or a flat bed with the pump and a water tank on the back and some storage. And then here's a front view of it. So just to go a little bit more into the process, Eastside valued this vehicle at $20,000, and it's as you can see there, it's a 2002 Ford F-350. We took it and had it inspected by the mechanics at the fire garage, basically a used car inspection that you're used to. They came back, said it was a really good vehicle, good shape. It only has just over 22,000 miles on it. And so taking that into account, I spoke with finance and they were able to they said I could spend up to $20,000 on the purchase, the repair and the equipping of the vehicle. So actually I was able to, talking with Eastside, going back and forth, I was able to get the vehicle for $13,000 was the final price that we came up with. So I just want to go over some of the pros of this vehicle. As you can see from the pictures, it's very small and maneuverable. I think this fits the city really well, what we were looking for, something that can get around some of the storm drainage ponds that we have and be able to get around in the tight areas up on the ridge. As you see, $13,000 is very reasonable price. So this, just like we were talking about before, this allows us to get our kind of foot in the door just to get started and have something to work off and start this wildfire program. Another benefit to this vehicle is it's a known quantity. Like I said, it was Duval's old rig. Our crews have actually worked off of it and deployed with it. There's still people obviously that in the area that have worked off it and had it outfitted. So we'll be able to have that local knowledge on if there's anything, how to outfit it. And then also a benefit you can see there is one of the last bullets is it's already pre-programmed and has a local radio in it. If we bought something from out of the area, we'd have to spend up to $5,000 just for the radio itself. So the fact that it already has a local radio that's already programmed with all our local channels is a huge benefit. It's a very basic design, easy to work from. You know, like I said, it's just a pickup cab with the box on the back. It's 4-wheel drive, maneuverable in the snow. So that just gives us other options. As we all know, between downtown and the ridge, a lot of times there's a change in rain and snow. So having another vehicle at our disposal to get around in snow is a big plus for us. And then also it has a hitch. It's tow capable, so it could be used to pull the boat trailer or the CCAS trailer if one of the command vehicles isn't available. Some other things, as you can see on there, talk about it's a 125-gallon water tank. A little bit on the small side, but that's something we can upgrade in the future. We have some plans looking into that to take care of that. It has pump and roll capability, which basically means you can drive the vehicle while you're spraying water. So the vehicle can move while somebody's walking alongside of it, spraying, you know, a hose line as they go. So that's a big benefit for this type of vehicle. And then I already talked about the radio. So you asked maybe what the next steps are. Like I mentioned, I'm actually going to be picking it up from Eastside on Wednesday. It needs about $3,000 to $5,000 in repairs. This is, you know, what I figured in with the cost, mainly batteries, some warning light upgrades, some front engine alignment work, and a spare tire. But again, those are things that we discounted or took into account with the price. we need to outfit it with equipment. There's a bunch of equipment that we'll need to buy just to make the ready, but it's not things that have to happen right away. We can kind of build our way up a little bit as we go, create some policies and conduct some training, make sure everybody's up to speed on how the unit works, and then add it to the run card. Realistically, we're looking at probably, we're doing this over the next couple months. We want to take the opportunity to get the vehicle in the door, and then we can work on getting it outfitted. So, our goal is to have a mine for the springtime is when it'd be available to respond and on the run card for the area. And so that's just a real quick update on kind of where we're at. This was kind of, like I said, an exciting opportunity that kind of came up quick in the last month or two, but this is exactly what we were hoping that that 100,000 could be used for. And I think we found something that really fits our needs and is at a really good price. Most of the ones that we looked online were $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for the same type of vehicle. So I think this is a really good bonus to be able to have this vehicle in the city. So that's what we've been working on, and I'll see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Cotton, then Councilmember Christensen.
So great. I am very excited, especially that it's a known entity with, people have worked with that rig before and so know its capabilities and such. In times past, and I think it was initially kind of at the presentation for the budget, there was some discussion about the possibility that it could be, rented out or loaned out, depending on what was going on. Is that something that's still being considered with this particular vehicle, or is that something more you'd consider with a heavier duty vehicle?
The focus is getting something for the city right now, but that is an option. The vehicle was deployed in the past. Duval used it many, many years.
I think it's gone to Eastern Washington.
Yeah, it's gone to Eastern Washington quite a few times, and that is an option in the future if we want to explore that as we have more, as we have the staffing available. There is a little bit of a difference in equipment that we might need to have. One of the things I mentioned, it had a 125-gallon water tank. Technically, it needs to have a 150-gallon water tank, but I've already looked into how we could add an extra 25 gallons. So those are things that we can work toward in the future, but that wasn't the main focus when I was looking at this vehicle. The main focus was to get something for the city. But as we go through and we get it outfitted, that's something we could look for in the future.
Okay. And I was very delighted to see the new Engine 155 driving around downtown. So see that the engineers are getting their drive time in.
They're working on it, yep.
Excellent. Councilmember Christensen.
Just that I'm really pleased that you're able to do this and find this, especially at that price point. That's wonderful. I think that'll be great to have a brush truck. The one thing that I didn't see on the next steps is I'm assuming that we're going to give it a paint job too, right?
It's not, yeah, it's not gonna get a paint job per se, but it will be relabeled. Yeah, we're gonna have it'll look just like, my truck outside. It's gonna have the same design, basically, not as much billboard space,
Mhm.
but it'll have the Snoqualmie Fire Department rocker with a stripe, and then of course we'll get rid of the Duval and put 155 on it. But yeah, that's part of what I figured into part of the repair cost is to get it branded for Snoqualmie.
All right, wonderful. Good work, Chief. Thank you.
Mayor Ross, please.
Congratulations on the brush truck. So it says add to run card. So does this mean it's only gonna be wildland fires, or will we use it for mutual aid on other small fires, or what does that look like?
It'd be added to the response card for any kind of brush fire. So say, for example, if there was a brush fire in the city, it would get toned out instead of our main engine. It would also be available for mutual aid requests in the zone if we decide to staff it up that way, if we put it available. So it could be called to maybe East Side, maybe Bellevue when they have these big wildland responses. So that is an option. It's just how we do the run cards. And that's how most of I believe there's 6 or 7 in the zone right now. That's how they're all set up, is you put them available if you have the correct staffing, the trained firefighters for it. And then it would just be cross-staffed with our engine and aid car like we currently are now, and it would be sent out as needed. But that's only, just like our engine could be sent to, Issaquah or Bellevue for a fire response, a structural fire response. This could be sent instead if we had the correct staffing, if we put it available. But again, that's something that we have to look at. There's a lot of moving pieces as to how it's going to be, the policies and how we're going to set it up. And that's something we're gonna look at the next couple months, the correct way to have it added to the run cards.
Thank you.
Chief, I have to say that I got really nervous this summer because there was a urban wildfire down at Boeing Field.
Mhm.
And it just kind of underscores how important having a piece of equipment like this, especially given that we've got 20 miles of trails that have accumulated a lot of underbrush and debris that builds up over years. And I think this is perfect start. I do not want to lose sight on having more conversation about what we can do to help encourage, both residents to make sure that they're doing preventative stuff so that we can mitigate it, because obviously our homes on the ridge are very close together. They're close together down here too. And I think it helps us start that conversation. So I applaud you for doing this.
Thank you.
Great work. Okay, anything else for the chief? Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, moving on to police. Well done. Chief Race. Okay, first up is King County Detention Services Agenda Bill. And I do not.
Good evening, council members,
Go
mayor.
ahead and-
This agenda bill is for the King County Jail Services contract that we currently hold with them. As you recall, back in the end of last year, we brought forward a new interlocal agreement with jail price changes. Inside that agreement, they reserve the right to increase the rates for 2026. And this is ultimately to let you know that they are increasing the rates 2026, as they stated previously. And so we've already kind of agreed upon it. It's already stated in the agenda, or in the previous, or in the ILA that we currently hold with them. This is just kind of to give y'all that update of what the rates are going to go to. So they forwarded the form that is attached, and all of the 2026 final rates are listed there in yellow. The big change obviously is, and it's all within what we projected through the budget process, but our daily maintenance fees are $289.81 for daily bed operation. The other one that, if we use them, would probably be more of the acute care, which is $499.34. And then their booking fee increased to $305. So those are the big changes of that. Like I said, it's one of those that that we've kind of already agreed upon. This is more of just bringing this to your knowledge that those rates have changed, and to show you what they're looking like.
Okay, excellent. Questions, council?
I just,
Councilmember Cotton.
just a comment, did see in the, some of the introduction things that, we didn't actually even use them in 2025.
So they are the only way we use them, it has to be my approval.
Yeah.
They are our last resort. We book in Issaquah first, and then we'll go to SCORE. And then our long-term commits for those individuals, we are using the Yakima and Sunnyside, but this is a last resort.
Yeah.
Because of the cost.
Yeah. But it's still there if we need it, so.
It's a backup to my backup.
So just a reminder too, SCORE is on an as available basis too. So there's only so many open beds, and if they're taken, then this is
Then we
where
figure it out and we go.
might go. Yeah. Okay, very well. Any other questions? Would there be any objection of putting this on consent agreement or consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll add it to consent. Thank you, chief. All right. Oh my gosh, bingo, bongo. Here we go.
There's city attorneys raising her hand online.
Oh, I did not see that. Yes,
Hi, good morning or good evening. Can you hear me? I'm trying to turn my video on.
yes. we can
Okay,
hear-
so council already approved the rate increase for the King County Jail contract because it was in the contract that was approved earlier. So technically council does not need to approve it again.
Oh, even better.
but it could go forward to council as just like informational, but there's no council action needed.
Okay. So it wouldn't be under consent, it would be under a report. Okay, very well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate the clarification. Okay. Chief Bailey, you're back up. Yeah, Norcom.
Okay, so NORCOM, just as a reminder, the Northeast King County Regional Public Safety Communications Agency, or as we call it, NORCOM, is our dispatch center. They cover 20 public safety organizations over the eastern side of King County, police and fire. So we are a member of the interlocal agreement, so we have a seat on the governing board for NORCOM. Part of that is, part of the ILA is every year, the city council has to approve a resolution approving our fees for the following year so that they can complete their budget. So that's what this agenda bill is to approve by resolution the 2026 rates for NORCOM. As you can see in the documentation, their proposed rate for 2026 is 75,468, which is 4,875, or roughly a 6.9 increase over our 2025 assessment of 70,594. It's part of the ILA. There's an actual formula that talks about, uses call volume, population, assessed value, and that's how they come up with our fee for 70,000, or excuse me, 75,468.
Excellent. Questions? Councilmember Cotton.
I just was wondering, there was notation that, and I didn't know if it was this year or from the previous, because I was reading through the kind of the previous contract stuff. And did the $400,000 that was taken out of the fund, was that for back in the 2007? Or
No,
was
it
that
was
recently?
this year. So what they've done the last couple of years is they've had, at the end of the year, when they look at their budget, they've had an overage that they put
Yeah.
a portion of it into their reserve fund. And then they also have used, the last couple of years, they've used a portion of it to help pay toward the budget for the next year to keep those user rates down.
Okay, that's
So
what I was
that our rates don't go up by a huge amount. The last couple of years, I believe 2 years ago, it was a 0% raise. Last year, it wasn't too high because of an additional 400,000, and they added a new police agency. So that kind of balanced out the number. And then this year, the governing board voted again to add another 400,000 from the overage from the year before, just to help try to keep those numbers down.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Chief Bailey. On our regular agenda, not consent,
Consent.
because
I think consent is fine.
with the resolution, we can do that?
Yeah.
Okay, on to consent then. Thank you.
These ordinances, they usually have 2 readings.
Thank you. All right. My gosh. This is like a tennis match.
Yes.
Let me guess. E-motorcycles.
Yes.
All right.
Let me find, there we go.
Covering a lot of ground tonight.
Yes, we are. Okay. Good evening. Let me get back to that. So over the last, I don't know, a little over a year, but at least the last year, we've had a lot of conversations, and especially in 2025, a lot of conversation over the motorcycles, e-bikes topic. Together with Robert over there and City Attorney Burke, I'm bringing a potential city ordinance to y'all for discussion of just something that we can talk about, see what your direction is from what we're looking at. We've talked a lot about what a motorcycle or a motor-driven cycle is, and that is ultimately anything with a particular horsepower, which equates to anything over 750 watts. They look like that picture on the bottom. They are not They do not have operating pedals or assisted by pedals. They have pegs. They look like a dirt bike or a motorcycle because you can get into really fancy ones. These motorcycles are what we've been dealing with on a regular basis, especially, starting back in spring break and throughout the summer. They can, reach speeds up to 100 depending on their programming, and things like that. So what we're looking at is a new city ordinance, which defines it'll basically clarifies what property is, what, the city property, means any parking lot, municipal facility, anything like that, along with any city streets, which are defined by the RCW chapter 46. We define exactly what an electric motorcycle is, which means it's any motorcycle defined under the RCW and powered by an electric motor. Is not equipped with fully operating pedals, as I stated before. They're typically foot pegs on them. Motor exceeds 750 watts, and it provides continuous assistance. Like, it is fully operating and goes over 28 miles an hour. When you get to the 28 miles an hour and below, that's when we get into the e-bikes, and I've got a couple of slides just to show the difference there. We also define impounding, which is the removal of any vehicle, because these are motor vehicles, electric motorcycles, or similar motorized devices. And these are to be stored basically by any of our any contractors. Okay, so we use two tow companies in the area for that. We also define a motorcycle helmet, because in order to operate these, you have to wear a motorcycle helmet, not a bicycle helmet. So I basically took the section out of the RCW and the laws and put that into here to define those, to define that particular helmet. Then we look at what are operating, this is where we get into where we're defining what is legal for use. So no person under the age of 16 shall operate an electric motorcycle within the city of Snoqualmie. No person shall operate an electric motorcycle that is not registered with the Department of Licensing. They have to have a license plate, which is also dictated by RCW. And then they have to meet all the road requirements like lighting, mirrors, those types of equipment. And then we discuss no person shall cause or knowingly permit his or her child or ward under the age of 18 to operate an electric motorcycle. So we're bringing, accountability in for the parents. We also address operating them in open spaces, city parks, public trails, and things like that, just regular city open spaces. We also operate defining in hours of darkness, which again goes back to the equipment side of things. And then you can't carry a passenger or tow anything with those. So that's the general operations of them. Inside that section, we discuss penalties. And as you can see, we've got 3 levels of penalties. All of these, so each offense increases. 250 is our start, 500, 750, and each of these allow the police department to forward the case up to the juvenile prosecutor and or the municipal court, depending on age. This allows us to get their buy-in on what's going on and serve any punishment that may come out of it. Of course, we're basically showing that anything under chapter 46 will be used on public roadways. Traffic laws do apply to these. That's what we've been enforcing under this is the RCWs, in order to get kind of the progress we've had over the last, several months. This just brings it into the ordinance itself. This is where we talk about the helmet, the motorcycle helmet and the required penalties. So as stated, you have to have a specific motorcycle helmet defined earlier in that section. And then we added a penalty of $75 on there for a separate offense on that under the ordinance. These are all, things that we're just presenting to you. We can talk, discuss, change I'm here to get your direction before we, bring this to a discussion with all of council. This is a big one for me, is the impoundment section. As we look at some of this other city ordinances that, other municipalities are looking at, a lot of them have the police departments taking possession of them. There's some concern on my end of that and along with the city attorney, because once we take possession of a motor vehicle, I kind of get stuck with it because I can't seize it without an nexus to a crime. And if it's got to be titled, I can't own it, right? So that's why I'm sticking with the RCW stating that we are going to impound those using our contracting tow companies. And then it's on the parents to retrieve those devices from the tow company, because they are motor vehicles. We're treating them just like their cars. They will be picked up by a tow company, taken to the yard and processed. We will be giving them the tow form when we take the vehicle. They will be provided where it's going and all of that stuff. Then they work out all the other monetary stuff with the tow company. Currently, we are listing the juvenile operator as the operator under the tow form, and then the parents are listed as the owner, and it's upon them to prove ownership, whether that's it being registered to them or a bill of sale. Yeah.
Pardon me. One question. I understand that you can have an e-bike, but are those always titled, or do they just sometimes not titled?
So all e-motorcycles, well, any electric motorcycle has to be registered and titled. It has to be registered with DOL, and in order to register it, you have to title it, just like a vehicle. An e-bicycle is totally separate.
Right.
And that is, the e-bikes are not. You don't have to register those because they're bicycles. So it's two different devices.
Right. So e-motorcycles, so when they arrive by ship or however they come here, are they titled when they arrive and people buy them? Could they be untitled? How do you impound something that's untitled?
Because it's still a motor vehicle. And then
Okay.
they have to prove ownership with a bill of sale. So like, even if you went and bought your car tomorrow, you're not gonna have a title, and it's probably not gonna get registered if I towed it that day, because it takes a little bit to get it registered. And it would be the same thing. So you would just have to show the bill of sale and where you purchased it to show that it was done, because it does have a VIN number, and they have a bunch of other numbers. They are placard, just like an ATV, as
Okay.
an example.
So they can still be impounded without being titled?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And that's what, and we list the RCW in here to show that. And then, to kind of help clarify, this is where we get back into the bicycle. So I wanted to make a differentiation between the bicycles and the motorcycles. Bicycles have fully operational pedals that provide assistance. And then they don't go over 750 watts, and typically speaking, they're not going to go over 28 miles an hour, which makes it a class 3. Any modifications to a bicycle that would go over that could fall in the range of a motorcycle at that point. And again, this is a slide y'all have seen before, but it shows the differences between the class 1s, 2s, and 3s. Pedal assist, class 2s have a throttle, and then the speed limit, or the speed capabilities of them. So that's kind of the gist of where we're at so far, wanting to kind of move forward with it and get y'all's suggestions on it. And then, of course, Dina's online too, and Robert's here to help with any questions y'all might have.
Councilmember Cotton.
So, I think that's great. I know we've been talking about it a lot, and you've been doing a lot of research and work with the city attorney on all of this. So kind of what I'm seeing is ultimately the parents being responsible as going to be the title owners, or if not titled, that if there's an infraction, there's a fine for the infraction, there's potential court costs. They then also have to pay for getting it out of impound. They also have to pay, if it's not titled, to title and register it. And ultimately, there's going to be more than just the fines that are incurred for the infraction of with the e-motorcycle.
Correct. And one of the things I'll add is when it comes to the court process, there's a difference between those that are 16 and over and those that are under 16. So anybody under 16, the case would be sent to the juvenile prosecutor's office, which they have a range of things that they can do, right? And it depends on what we send up there. If we send a reckless driving, for instance, or a reckless endangerment, or some type of criminal charge, that is one thing. If we send something for, you know, running stop signs, red lights, improper lane usage, things like that, that's more of an infraction side, and they'll have a different way to handle those, especially with juveniles above the age of 13. And if they're over 16, we would write them a ticket, no different than if I stopped you for running a stop sign. It would go to municipal court because they would have, you know, typically have a driver's license. When you get into the RCW of the requirements in that first section under the general, it also follows the line of they have to have a driver's license and they have to have a motorcycle endorsement to operate these. So that's where a lot of that comes in, and those are, those are described in the RCW links that we've included in there, because that is one of the major requirements, and that is what, in essence, mostly what we've been using to tow them, because they haven't had operator licenses and or a motorcycle endorsement, which means they can't drive it home or even operate it.
Follow up? Yes, please.
And are we, so that we'll take this to council, get the blessing on this, and then is the city planning to do a rollout of, and the department a rollout of information to the community about what's on the horizon, and as far as, when this would go in effect and such?
Right. So my projection, or my thought of how this would go, is take it to council for a full discussion so that everybody has the buy-in, because this is a big piece of change to our ordinance. And then bring it back as an agenda bill to council for the first and second readings and things. And as we go through that process and before implementation, we would do a very heavy media push, letting everybody know that this is what the changes are, and this is, what the effective date is and things like that. Because we do need to notify everybody. And we've done a lot of notification. This would just be us bringing it to, we now have a city ordinance.
Great. Thank you for all your hard work.
Councilmember Christensen.
Yeah, can we go back a few slides, please?
Sure.
Which one are you thinking?
A little bit further. So I guess just starting out, one of the things that I noted was that, if you keep going back, I already have a question about the
The definition.
helmets too. Yeah, back through the definitions. So there were a lot of references to, city streets and things like that, road, city,
Yes.
street. But it didn't include anything about like the trails and whatnot. And I didn't know, obviously not in the city street here, but like within some of them, including the helmet provision, whether we should also be calling out specifically on city trails as well.
I thought there was a listing about city trails and parks.
There was a separate definition at some point, but it wasn't in, I didn't think at least that it was in all of the others as well in terms of impounding and things like that. And I just don't know whether, I was trying to read it quickly.
Okay.
So if we need to impound, it's gonna fall under the violation, which would typically be the motorcycle endorsement and operator's license.
Okay.
I think by any other real property that's owned by the city kind of covers the trails.
Okay.
But that would be a question for Dina or up there, or Mike.
Remember the whole section in the park behavior code about operating vehicles
In the city park.
proper areas.
Okay.
So there's a whole section there also that would be useful.
Okay, great. As long as it can be enforced there, then I'm happy on that. And then the other question that I had too was, it was my understanding that they are not currently required to have insurance.
So
We add that as a requirement as well, so that in case they end up hurting themselves or others, there is some protection there as well.
so motorcycles are required to have insurance.
Okay,
So that is covered by the RCW under the insurance laws.
wonderful.
Mayor, please, Mayor Ross.
So did I see in there, someone there was you can't use electric motorcycles after dark, right?
If,
Unless they have lights and proper equipment.
Okay.
It would be bullet point number 2 there, where it has to have lighted headlight, stop lamps, and the reflectors.
Because electric motorcycle could be like a Harley, right?
Yes,
So this would apply to everything?
yes,
Okay,
it applies to everything. And that's why we cover the equipment part in here as
Right.
well.
okay. Good, thank you.
Okay, excellent. I've got a question.
Sure.
Private parking lots. What would the enforcement be? Trespassing?
It
Or,
would still be the operation,
okay,
depending on what the situation is, because again, they still have to have a motorcycle, a license. It has to be properly equipped, it has to have a license plate. It has to be no different than a regular gas-powered motorcycle or a car. So that it doesn't matter where it's at that point.
mhm,
And typically speaking, the ones we're dealing with are more so going into the parking lots, and we've already seen them on the roadway,
Right.
or they're exiting on the roadways, but yes.
okay, thank you. I'm good. with that. Anything else? All right.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our next discussion point. Snoqualmie Police Service update.
Go to, I'm just gonna put this one up. It's gonna stay up. Let's see if I can get it to go. This one's just gonna stay up here. This is just so y'all can see it. If it'll pull up, there we go.
Bottom right-hand corner, make it smaller.
Come on. Okay. So we've had a lot of changes. And kind of wanted to bring some things to y'all, let y'all know where we're currently sitting. And what our organizational chart's looking like at this time. So you'll see that we have the chief, the administrative coordinator, the captain, the detective, 4 sergeants, and then we'll have 8 officers plus the school resource officer and then an evidence technician. What this is looking at is, this is looking at April 1, 2026, ultimately. We're kind of already there. I'll go into that a little bit later, but this is what it's going to be like after we are done providing services to North Bend. Staffing wise, we're pretty much there. I can tell you as of September 30th, we have 8 vacancies in patrol. So that's 7 officers and 1 sergeant. Then we have and that's from those positions that were designated for North Bend, and those that, because they knew that their jobs were not going to be secure at that time, have moved on to other agencies. Prior to that, we had lost our mental health professional and our police service officer. So those are the additional 2. And so that's kind of where we're looking at staffing wise right now. I think overall, this is a good model of what we're looking at doing for the city of Snoqualmie as only the Snoqualmie Police Department. That provides 3 officers per shift. We're going to run a 2-person minimum, so that provides for any training or sick time or vacation adjustments without accruing a bunch of overtime. And that's kind of reflected up here. So each sergeant would be 1 day shift, 1 night shift, and things like that. So in essence, right now, my model is 1 officer in North Bend, 1 officer in Snoqualmie, and a sergeant that's split between the 2. So we're going from 1.5 FTEs per city to 2 FTEs at a minimum in Snoqualmie, not having to float to another area or go address issues there. In a perfect day, every day, and as long as I stay fully staffed, we will have 3 officers on at any given time. And then of course, during the day shift hours, during the week, you have a detective, a captain, and chief around. And then the school resource officer is also available. So in essence, we're looking really good for April to continue providing excellent quality service to the community of of Snoqualmie without having to worry about going over to North Bend at this time. We've done a lot of work on it, and I have to say, I thank Drew for all of his work, and Mike for working with me and getting through this. He's been a huge help in kind of just giving me guidance and things through this time frame. You know, I think overall, it's a really good model to bring forward to y'all and you know, to our community, because I know there's a lot of question around what services are going to look like, and they're going to increase here.
City Administrator Chambliss.
And then I'll talk a little bit about recruitment of a permanent chief. Now is not a good time of year to do that with the holidays coming up. So our intention is to kick that off in January. So
Thank you.
we'll begin recruitment there and probably have that wrapped up around that April timeframe also.
Okay, excellent. Councilmember Cotton.
Will we be looking at some point in time for an additional mental health professional?
So through the, yes and yes. What I'm doing is I'm evaluating a lot of options. I'm evaluating the number of calls we have, and I'm gathering information to bring to y'all for that. I have to look at what the call service is, you know, what our call volume is, what the caseload's going to be in comparison, because what we've been doing since, you know, ultimately September of last year is utilizing our resources outside, and it's been pretty successful. We have been working with, you know, organizations like the Recovery Navigator Program, the Mobile Crisis Team, our local hospital, you know, Swedish, and those to provide help. And what I'm looking for right now is a way to do the continued follow-up, and whether or not it's feasible to keep a full-time employee or utilize other resources for that. Eastside Fire, you know, has their own, I learned this about 2 months ago, is they have their own response team out here now as well. And I know that the city of Duval has started contracting with their piece since Eastside Fire is up there. And I'm not saying that we're looking at doing that, but there's different models. I just have to weigh all the options and what it looks like. You know, then we've got other things such as the law that was passed where we can implement sales tax, and then there's grants and things like that that are out there. We utilize grants to have that position in the first place. So there's a lot of research being done into that. To give you a specific answer of can we do it, I don't know yet. My administrative staff is doing a lot of work on looking at not only what our caseload would be and how many calls we've responded to, for instance, for crisis intervention calls, but also what the results are of those calls. So we're gathering information for you.
And I realize this isn't a priority right now, but, you know, kind of down the road.
Right.
City Administrator Chambliss, and we are down at the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, you're about a month ahead of me. I have tasked them with doing the research so we could bring it forward as part of the sales tax conversation within the next few meetings.
Okay, fabulous. We're down at the end. Thank you very much. I want to also emphasize City of Snoqualmie will have 24/7 coverage with 3 officers for those listening in from North Bend, because their coverage will be slightly different. And with that, if there's no objection, we will be adjourned. All right, we stand adjourned at 5:54 p.m. Thank you.